Aloha, I'm Laura Christine, and if you are brand new to this channel, this is actually the 6th video in a series on setting healthy boundaries. So I'll put the playlist up here so you can go and listen to all of them or watch all of them. I'm also a podcast host, so I guess I got that signal crossed up there in my brain. But this video is on self-trust. So we need to have a number of things if we're going to be able to set healthy boundaries and maintain those healthy boundaries. If we don't trust ourselves, we're not going to do it. If we don't know ourselves, which is the last video, we're not going to trust ourselves. So we're going to dive into that. Before we do, I do want to invite you over to the Being Boundless website so you can grab a free foundational course called Basics to set a firm foundation for your boundlessness, to learn more about where you might be breaking some boundaries and how you can come in and repair those with self-love and start to set those boundaries that make you feel boundless, that make you feel light and free. Being boundless is a space that is safe for self-exploration and spiritual evolution, transformation, all of those things. So head on over there now. The link is definitely in the description, and if it pops up here, great, it should. But hey, technology is technology. So you can get that link in the description. It's the Basics course. So let's dive in to self-trust. So my question for you is, how quickly are you able to trust somebody that you've just met? Do you trust somebody like that? And with what? How much do you trust them? What do you trust them with? Your life? Your kids? Your gold watch? Or whatever you might have? Just curious. And the reason I ask you this is because I mentioned in the last video that to know yourself is to love yourself, and you need both for you to be able to set strong boundaries and maintain them and keep them healthy. But you're also not going to do that if you don't trust yourself to make the boundaries that are the best for you. And when you're first getting to know yourself, it's hard to trust yourself, especially if you never really knew yourself before. So my suggestion to everybody and anybody, especially those just starting out in their self-exploration journey, is to set boundaries. And I mentioned this in the self-love one, but set boundaries around something that's important to you, that you know is important to you, that makes you feel good. So you might be feeling really good about exploring your consciousness. That probably feels pretty good, because I gotta tell you, once that door opens, it's so rad. There's so much potential and all of these different ways of seeing things, and it's exciting and it's new. So set a boundary around your self-exploration, meaning not limits. We're not talking limits here. We're setting boundaries around it, meaning take 1 hour a day that is non-negotiable and explore your consciousness. Or make it 3 times a week, 30 minutes. Whatever works for you and your lifestyle. There's no right answer. Okay? Your answer is the right one. There's no other right answer, okay? So set a boundary around that, because then you'll start to trust yourself more. Now, as you get to know yourself, you're going to be able to get to trust yourself. But you have to do both. So yes, self-trust is super important in setting healthy boundaries, but so is self-knowledge and self-love and knowing your values and taking full responsibility for doing it. So this is kind of our wrap-up video as well as the self-trust video, because honestly, I wish I could give you the magic words and boom, you're gonna trust yourself for the rest of your life, no matter what you're doing. But honestly, that self-exploration in itself is what will get you to the point where you trust yourself. You can't do anything wrong. And that's really hard for us to get, because we're raised in a society where there is right and there is wrong. And if you're wrong, it's bad. And if you're right, it's good. But I have to tell you, I was basically a straight A student, and I did very well in most of my classes throughout school, high school, and college. And I'm not using pretty much any of it. So it was good at the time, but now it's kind of worthless. So not everything is actually black and white and good and bad. Not everything that you do right is good, and that you do wrong is bad. And honestly, is there really even a right and wrong? Now I'm getting a little esoteric here and kind of existential, right? But the more you live and the more you explore who you really are, the more and more you're going to trust yourself to do the things that feel good to your heart and your body and your soul, because what you're going to find is those baby steps toward that, where you start to do the smaller things that feel good, they will warm you up, so to speak, to do the bigger things that feel good as well. Like a very simple and very condensed version of my story would be I started to learn to teach yoga, and that led me to Kundalini yoga, which led me to a divorce, which led me to moving across the country and living there for 3 years, to moving to Hawaii. Both of those moves without any real plan or connections. That's the kind of thing that you can work into. Not that your life is going to look like mine at all, but I trusted in my knowing so deeply and so much that when I felt that it was time to move to Hawaii, I said, okay. And it didn't matter how afraid I was, because of course I was. It's a big change. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't even have a job or a home or people here. I just came. But I'm still here 6 years later, and I guess the evidence proves the evidence proves the point, right? That's the other thing. We don't get to have the evidence before we act. But when we act in those smaller ways and we get evidence of those smaller things, we build ourselves to the bigger things. And that, my friend, is what being boundless is really all about. It is knowing who you are so you can trust yourself and love yourself and set those boundaries around those values and become boundless. I really invite you to come and take that introductory course. It's super fun, it's short, but it's really powerful and impactful. I've had really good feedback so far that people are really understanding a lot more about their values and about what's going on with them, so they can make some changes, taking those smaller steps or maybe some of those bigger steps depending on where you are in your journey. And there's no wrong place to be in your journey. You're not behind, you're not too far, you are perfect wherever you are. I love when my soul rhymes like that. So head over to the site, it's linked in the description below, and definitely subscribe here because I have a new video coming out every Friday. Sometimes it's channelings, sometimes it's information, and it's always inspirational, and it always helps you get more in tune with your own soul and self and explore your consciousness a little bit more. So enjoy, and until next time, thank you so much for being boundless with me.